there.
General Kenobi.
My 2026 end-of-year goal is to see 75 movies in theaters. Usually I average around 50 or 60 movies per year, but this year I am determined to reach the next Regal Unlimited milestone of 75 movies. As of February, I have seen 16 movies so far. So this is your February recap. The first movie I saw in theaters this month was Crazy Stupid Love. They've been doing a new series just about every month since like October, where they re-release for one day only a different movie every single day of the month. So for February, obviously, there were a lot of different romance and rom-com movies. I am not massively into rom-coms. I'm not really into romance. However, I really like Crazy Stupid Love. That is one that I have rewatched several times. Of course, I was really excited to go see it in theaters. I'm always pro seeing movies in movie theaters, especially if it's your first watch. So I've really enjoyed the rewatch series because they're movies that have been on my list to see for a long time, and I get to have my first watch be in theaters, even though its initial release was like years ago. Now we go from Crazy Stupid Love to my second watch, which was Return to Silent Hill. I don't know what to say about that. I am not a Silent Hill fan, I guess. Like, I know a little bit about it, but, like, that's kind of not my niche. I went with my roommate who knows much more about it than I did. And yet, even though we were going into it with two very different levels of experience with the material, we were both equally flabbergasted by what we saw. The most I've ever laughed at a movie was when I went to see Moonfall. If you know, you know. The second hardest I've ever laughed was during this movie. Especially considering that this is supposed to be a horror movie, I can't even... The best part of it to me was like the creature design, but I think that that's something that is attributed to the source material, not to this movie. The storytelling didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. They were just whipping out the most random shit. So by the end, you're crying, laughing. I can't even begin to tell you how bad it was. And that's coming from someone who has not interacted with the source material and someone who has. Like, we both thought that this was, like, atrocious. But if you need a good laugh, go see it. The next movie I saw was Dracula. This movie is an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and my experience with that is from Francis Ford Coppola's version back in the 90s with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. Now, that movie is a pretty weird movie. This movie was also a pretty weird movie, but it was, like, whimsical and fun. I really liked how far in depth we went into Dracula as a character, as far as his history and his motivations and his emotions. I think that the editing was really fun. There were some cool montage moments that you're just like, what's going on? But in a good way. The performances were incredible, especially Caleb Landry Jones, who played Count Dracula. Especially when you see him, like, interacting with people on the red carpet, you can see just how outside of himself his performance of Dracula really was, and it was impressive. The costuming and the world building were all very good. It very much immersed you in the story, in the time, and you see both the dark sides of Dracula, but also, since you've been so immersed in his character, you really understand his goal and his mission. I really enjoyed how, like, fun and whimsical it was, but also at the same time, some parts of it might have been a little too, like, cartoonish, particularly the gargoyles. Those didn't really mesh well with the rest of the film for me. However, if you want something fun and whimsical, you better get Danny Elfman involved. And the music for this was absolutely incredible, so I was not surprised to see his name pop up when the credits rolled. I saw another of Regal's re-releases, and that was Casablanca. Casablanca is just a classic, so obviously it had been on my list for a while, and what better time to go see it than when it's back in theaters. That was my first time seeing it, and I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a very impactful story that had a lot of depth to it. It very well portrays the global struggles at the time, as well as the internal struggles of the people who were enduring such things. The one thing that came to mind coming out of this, though, is, what does "Here's looking at you, kid" mean? Like, I know what it means, but that doesn't make sense. Like, it does, but it doesn't. I don't know. I don't get that quote. That's such a big quote, and I don't even get it. I don't get it. On a more intimate level, I think there were also a lot of stories about redemption and learning to let things go, and I think that that was very profound, and the ending of the movie really ties it all together as far as these characters' journeys. After that, I went and saw Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. This, to me, is a must-see movie. I think it's going to come out to be one of the most unique movies of the year. The performances were so fun and energetic. You get this crazy cast of characters, and despite all of this craziness, there are some really in-depth topics that are presented to you to be discussed, as far as social commentary and technological commentary. Those who know me as a person know that I am really not a huge fan of AI, to say the least. While I am an avid social media user, I am also very, very hyper aware of how desensitized we are becoming as a society and the disconnect that it is forming. And I think that this movie brings up so many of those topics in really interesting ways. The ending of the movie, I won't spoil it, I don't even know how I could begin to spoil it, but it really has you leaving the theater being like, whoa. Like, I need to digest that. I think more movies should be like that. Here's food for thought. We're going to let you chew on it, but we want you to finish digesting that and processing that even once the credits are rolling. Very interesting. Would recommend. It is very, very topical and relevant to the technological age that we live in. No matter like what side you're on as far as too much technology, too little, have we gone too far, have we not? I think it prompts discussion, and that's important. That day was a double feature for me, so pretty much immediately after I went and saw Send Help. It was a lot of fun. It had me jumping out of my seat literally a couple times. The jump scares were so random and honestly a little goofy, but like they got you, which is definitely Sam Raimi style. I feel like he's a bit of a goofy filmmaker, but he also knows how to scare the shit out of you, so that was impressive. It wasn't anything super special. I didn't come out of it being like, oh my gosh, everyone needs to see this movie. It was a good time though. Like if you want to see a movie that is going to scare you a little bit, it's going to make you laugh, then that's a great option. No part of it like super stood out to me. It was just a good time. I liked it. Okay, the real doozy that I saw this month was Wuthering Heights. So Emerald Fennell is a very interesting filmmaker to me because she is a freak. I can tell you that much. I've seen Saltburn and I'm like, I understand the commentary that she was trying to make. I do get that, but I'm like, did you have to do it like that though? Did you have to make it weird? I guess. I mean, to each their own. But then to take that style and apply it to classic literature, that's a choice. That is a choice. I personally have not read the book. Before watching the movie, I did a deep dive on YouTube watching a whole bunch of book reports basically talking about the progression of the story and the themes and just breakdowns of the plot to try to understand the original intention of the story. And I will say, for all existing adaptations of Wuthering Heights, as far as I know, it really only covers the story of Catherine and Heathcliff, even though that's like maybe a third of the story. Like there's so much more story after Catherine dies. Spoiler, the book's been out. There's so much story after she dies about like Heathcliff's struggle and deterioration. The original themes about like classism and racism I think are lost because of her casting choices, but that's a whole other discussion. A lot of the other themes I think she covered. Setting the stuff about the book aside, the plot doesn't make sense. Even if you're not comparing the plot to the book, it just doesn't work. The first 30 minutes, gold. The young performers from their flashback scenes were fantastic. They had more chemistry as their characters than I think Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie did, honestly. So when they were introducing us to the characters and really setting the stage of the story, like, I was invested. I was feeling things. It was great. But then as soon as you move on, I just felt this detachment from the characters because they just keep going to these extremes and they're both just terrible people, which I understand is the point. But also as a filmmaker, it's your job for us to still understand these characters and where they're coming from and make us sympathize with them. And I didn't. I'm somebody who cries at most movies I see. Like, we get to the end of this one, I didn't really feel anything. There's so many movies in which your protagonists are actually very antagonistic and we still connect with them and root for them and understand them. And this just didn't do it. Visually stunning. The music worked very well. I was very impressed. I also think it's incredibly hilarious that you have Wuthering Heights as its original source material in which, like, there's no grand love confession. It's not a steamy romance. I don't think they ever even kiss. Like, none of that. And then they market it as this feel-good, steamy romance, come undone, whatever. But then the actual movie is just, like, depressing sludge. And what's even more shocking about this movie-going experience was the majority of people that I was in the theater with were teenage girls with their mothers. I would not take my mom to that movie. I love seeing movies with my mom. I'm not seeing that movie with my mom. No way. Anyways, so that brings me to the last movie that I have seen so far this month, which is How to Make a Killing. When I saw the trailer for this movie, I thought it was very clever. I knew that I wanted to see it, and I was a little surprised to find that it's actually not doing very well in the box office, like, at all. The reviews are kind of all over the place. They're not great either. But I saw the movie and I liked the movie. It was good. Obviously, it wasn't this like super fantastic movie, but like it was a good time. I liked it. I think part of the reason that people are not going to see it is it was not marketed properly. This is another one that I think had a good bit of commentary, but it was one of those that if you choose to read into it and analyze it, there is a lot that is being said, But also if you just want to passively watch it is incredibly easy to do so and incredibly enjoyable in that format. I think the most impactful part of the movie was like the last shot. This is like a little bit spoilery, but not really. Like the whole time this character basically spends his time on like the outside of this gate to the estate that he wants to inherit. And we're watching him try to fight his way in. And then in the end, when he gets what he wants, the gate closes in our face. So we relate to this character and his whole journey of trying to like fight his way to the top. But in the end, like once you have all these things and you are on top, you just shut everyone else out behind you as well. And this is something that I will compare to Wuthering Heights. Like he's a terrible person. He's killing off like his entire family tree. There's murder, there's cheating, there is, oh my gosh, what's the word that I'm thinking of? Extortion. Like so many different things that he's doing that are awful, awful things. And yet we're like, you go, dude. You hustle. That is how you direct a movie in which your protagonist is a bit antagonistic and you still help us understand where they're coming from and want to follow their journey. So yeah, that is basically my February recap. And I'm still planning on seeing one more movie before the month is out, which is going to be Goat. I'm seeing that tomorrow with my roommates. I'm very excited for this. I am a lover of animated movies and I love Caleb McLaughlin, so I'm really, really excited to see his performance in this. My favorite new movie of this month was probably Dracula. Least favorite? Wuthering Heights was pretty bad, but Return to Silent Hill was definitely worse. So that's going at the bottom of my list. There are a lot of films that I'm very excited to see next month. My number one is The Bride. I am like stoked for this movie and very, very excited to get to talk about it when it comes out and do a recap next month talking about it. Like I said, I like animated movies, so I'm really interested to see how Hoppers is. But anyways, I would love to hear other people's perspectives on these movies, what upcoming movies you're excited to see. Let me know what you want to talk about next.